Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. And I am your host, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. How is everybody doing today? Joining me in Studio B from Texas is Tex from Texas Front Porch. We have Bettina Moss joining us, the lovely Bettina Moss from Alabama. We're going to talk Dogman and a whole bunch of other weird stuff here today. Beyond BMR goes beyond the mysteries of the world. We take you to a deep dive and try to discover what all these rabbit holes are about. You can find us on Facebook at Texas Front Porch. That's his Facebook. My Facebook is Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. You can find us on Bigfoot Michigan Rob YouTube channel, Texas Front Porch YouTube channel, Jason McLean's YouTube channel, Bob Van Buren's YouTube channel, of course, The Blondes, The Booze, The Paranormal Podcast. I'll go over a slight schedule announcement here in a second. You can also find us on iHeartRadio, Odyssey Radio, Spreaker, and wherever podcasts are found. You can also find us on KPNL Radio. Thank you to the lovely Selene out in Oregon for that one. If you like what we have to offer you and you want to help support the channel, the Super Chat is open. Yes, the Super Chat is open, and long after the show ends, so is the Super Thanks for all shows and videos in our archives. Share us out, subscribe to us, and of course, give us a thumbs up, and be sure that the alert bell is on. And again, thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm going to go over our schedule for everybody as I typically do. We had just had a couple alterations. A lot of you may already know, and if not, I'll be doing this maybe for the next couple of weeks up through the middle of July. Some scheduling. We don't stream any longer on all of our channels, so you've got to go to the independent channel to pick up the shows. You're all smart. You can figure it out, but I'll go over it briefly for you. Once again, on Mondays is Texas Front Porch. That is on Texas Front Porch, YouTube, 9 o'clock in the East. Tuesday, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Again, found on Van Buren Variety YouTube channel. This show right here, Beyond BMR, found on Bigfoot Michigan Rob YouTube channel, 9 o'clock in the East. Now, Jason McLean is still doing that thing. It's called Mysterious Library on Untold Radio AM. That's a 10. You can find that on the Mysterious Library YouTube channel. Wednesdays, there is a schedule change. We have got a show at 10 o'clock in the East on Texas Front Porch, debuting Wednesday. The Diva Dimension with Danielle Diva. Wednesdays, 10 in the East, Texas Front Porch. It's Danielle Diva's show where anything goes. She talks about everything. The woman's got a wealth of knowledge in all subjects, from the paranormal to the cryptids to ancient history and everything in between. I'm excited for that one. Again, Wednesday, Danielle Diva, the Diva Dimension, 10 of these Texas Front Porch. Jason McLean questions everything. He's not gone nowhere. Subscribe to his channel. He's dropping videos throughout the week, maybe 2, maybe 3. There's not a schedule for Jason, so make sure that you have Jason's alert bell on. If you like Jason McLean's material, along with Donnie Cho, they're doing a video format. Turn on the alert bell and still subscribe, and keep subscribing to Jason McLean Questions Everything. Thursday, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, again on Bigfoot Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. The Blondes, The Booze, The Paranormal Podcast, again, streaming only on their platform. You got to subscribe to The Blondes, The Booze, The Paranormal Podcast. That is Thursdays at 9 in the East. And they come right back at you with a little more woo mixed in. The Blondes, The Booze, and the Woo, again on The Blondes and The Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube, 9 in the East, of course, on Friday. Saturday, on Texas Front Porch, Infamous Minds, it's True Crime, it's Tex, it's Danielle Diva, it's 10 in the East, again, on Texas Front Porch. So I know it's a mouthful. I'm going to advertise this as such for the next month, I guess, till everybody's on board. But you guys are pretty smart. A lot of you have already caught on. Just remember, we stream to one channel only. So whoever show it is pretty much is the YouTube channel that you do want to go to. For thank you so much for that. For let me bend your ear with that because I know it's quite a bit. So with that being said, I'm going to bring up my buddy from Texas, Studio B, Tex.
Howdy, y'all.
Hello, Tex.
I could do the big Tex from the state fair. Howdy, folks.
Well, I've yet to see that, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually looking forward, Tex, just coming down to your part of the woods, not to go to a convention or conference, just to hang out, because I still need some thorough. I need that Texas Longhorn, man. I need some Texas Longhorn, I think.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. When I get y'all down here, and it's Bettina's going to be here too in September. So
okay. Oh yes.
Yeah. So when I get y'all down here, we've got to make a little trip over to the north side so y'all can do the touristy thing and actually watch the cattle drive go through the old historical stockyards that they do twice a day down here. And they drive about, I don't know, 25 head of cattle down the street. Well, cowboys do it. And then they have I feel so sorry for this critter. They have a longhorn that they've got trained, and you can actually take a picture on the longhorn cow. So
that'd be awesome, Tex. I can't wait because again, we're buddies, we're friends. We do our YouTube stuff, but we are great friends, and I appreciate having you as a friend, as long with Jason, Bob Van Buren, who's in chat, and everybody else. That'd be awesome. So we do have Bettina Moss. I'm going to bring up Bettina now. Everybody, Bettina, we're going to make sure that her internet's all warmed up. We had a little glitch in the matrix a little earlier, so please bear with us if that is still going on. But I'm going to bring up the lovely Bettina. 3, 2, 1. Hello, B.
Okay. It's still a glitch?
Hello. About 5 seconds.
Do you know what? You want me to be better?
Well, I'd love you to be better. You're perfect. You're perfect as a person. If you feel the need that, if you think you need to do something different,
all right,
people in chat will deal with me in text for about 5 minutes. That might be best. So you're about 10 seconds delay now.
I'm going to try to do this from my phone instead.
Okay, hon. All right. See you shortly.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, Tex,
again, have made their appearance.
The gremlins always make their way through, and when you do live shows, this stuff happens, and no fault of Benita. See, I have a friend named Benita, and she's Bettina. No fault of hers. It's just sometimes you get that lousy connection. And we're working on it for about a good 12 minutes prior to the start of the show. But you know what, Tex? It is what it is. But this gives us an opportunity, though, Tex, to plug what you've been doing a little bit on Texas Front Porch, because I've really been enjoying the differences between Dogman and Werewolf. And you had a great show Monday with DA, and I think you started it last week. I think maybe you're doing a series, I think, for the rest of the month and maybe into July. So if you want to go ahead and walk us through a little bit of the highlights for our audience, that'd be fantastic.
Oh, certainly. We kicked it off actually with Donnie Cho, and it was cool with him because we kind of got into the history of the, and I'm not even going to try to attempt to say the name because it's French and I speak Texan. So, but it was the French werewolf legend And it was a very documented case. And he went over that. And we went over a bunch of other stuff with Donnie, but that kind of kicked off the series because many of you know my first experiences when I was 16 was a Dogman. Okay. Um, since then, I've went back and forth. Werewolf, Dogman. Are they the same? Are they different? What's going on? And I still don't have it figured out because one, my problem is a lot of people want to tell me what the differences are, but they can't tell me how they know because the only references we got is if we go back through history.
Yeah.
And so you start talking about the armies of Dogmen in Egypt and the Lion Men and all this kind of stuff. And there wasn't really an ancient culture that didn't have a canine deity of some kind. But we're not seeing that nowadays. We're not seeing them at the deity level. So something happened along the way. I have my own theory that the Great Flood had something to do with it. But now we're talking about different kinds of Dogmen. We're talking about, are they super soldiers? Was it the government? I certainly think that the government has had their fingers in that pie. But I don't think that's where we got what we call a Dogman. But because now we're getting, I've even seen supposed pictures of ones that look like a schnauzer. We have the hyena type. We have the Doberman type. We have the one that I saw and was, just different. But so we're getting into that, and we've had DA on and
yeah.
So, and this is this young lady right here, Bettina Moss.
Yep. Another one that can help us get through this
yes,
because, as you said,
she
Dogman
can weigh in on it too.
She can definitely weigh in today. And it is, and everybody knows, it's not one thing ever. I mean, you just mentioned so many things that you and I could talk about by ourselves with everybody because there's so many different factions.
Oh yeah.
And I've got some things that I'll hopefully you'll invite me on your show. That's right. I schedule people. That's right. So when I schedule myself on, there's just some stuff I want to get into. But enough of me, enough of you. Let's see if Miss B Moss has this set up here. 3, 2, 1.
Looking a lot better.
Bettina.
Hey, can y'all hear me now?
Hello, Bettina. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Perfect.
Hello, Bettina. Hello. Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I'm kidding you. Yes. Fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say we're gonna have to reschedule. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I was pulling your leg. You look fabulous. You sound fabulous. You and that computer, you always have a problem, it seems. I'm guessing.
What I noticed is that ever since I started doing certain shows, ever since I've had certain guests on the show, that come on and share some of the information that's been problems on the computer, even the way to where the pointer, the little mouse, not the mouse, but like the little arrow on there, it's not the same anymore. It's like, like it's a hand now. Didn't used to be that. Everything's changed, and now it gives me a hard time. It said I didn't have internet access. It did this when I had Scott Carpenter on the show. What was it? Lance Hightower. So certain topics, certain things that you discuss on certain shows, I think sometimes we get shadow banned and they start monitoring and watching what you're doing.
Well, that's always a possibility. Possible. It's a possibility. And I realize that, especially with you, B, because you do such a great job on your show, which is you have it. You don't have a set schedule, but you can drop your show. Somebody, I think Lily Pine will probably drop your link with crypto. What is it? Crypto paranormal crypto. What's your
Cryptonormal Encounters with B Moss?
Yeah, great show. Cryptonormal. Yes, I love it, and I do notice that, and I figured that would happen. So while you were getting all set up, me and Tex were talking about because Tex is running a series of the differences between different dogmen and werewolves and things of that nature. So I
Mm-hmm.
figured, well, we got to be on because, you've had an encounter, you've seen several, and you talk to many people when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
Dogman. So I'm going to throw this at you. You can either A, do your encounter if you like, that's your option because some people probably haven't heard it, or you can get right into your thoughts and theories and how it applies to the people you've spoken with on your show.
Okay. I'm trying to decide where to begin.
The beginning usually works best if you want to do the encounter and take it from there. It's up to
So
you.
yeah, I'll share the encounter. So for the people who may not have heard the encounter before, um, back in 2013,
Bettina,
I had my, uh-huh.
you have my permission to slap Rob anytime you want. You feel the need to.
He's got one coming, doesn't he?
Well, I
Yeah,
gave
he
you the
does.
option. If you don't want to do the encounter, don't. You can get right into it. You can get right
No,
into it.
I'm good going
Okay.
into it. So I'm gonna go into it real quick. So for those of y'all who have not heard the encounter, I had my first Dogman encounter in 2013. I already knew about Dogman at the time, Bigfoot and all that kind of stuff. I always had an interest in all things paranormal, cryptid, all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's always been a thing to where when I first started hearing Dogman encounters on shows like Brenton Sawin's Mysteries to Search and Big Condom Show, Dogman Encounters, and several other shows that are out there. Um, I already believed in the things, but I never thought that I would actually see one for myself until I actually did. So I'm going to paint a picture. It's November 2013. It's the week before Thanksgiving. Every year during hunting season, my ex-husband, like was my husband at the time, would go hunting and sometimes be gone for sometimes 3 or 4 days. And so instead of me just staying at home at the house by myself for the weekend, I would take that opportunity with me and my little dog and we'd go and visit my parents where they lived at. Uh, at no point did I think I would ever see a dog man. So, but that night I did. So this particular weekend, I guess I need to paint this scenario, paint the layout of the land. Like, so pull into their neighborhood, and then on the end of the neighborhood that my parents lived on, it's in a cul-de-sac. So, with that being in a cul-de-sac, it's like that's a dead end of the neighborhood. But the whole backyard behind all the houses, there's it's a big field, and that field is crops. Sometimes it's a cornfield, sometimes soybeans, sometimes a cotton field. But surrounding and bordering that field, whatever it is, whatever crop it is at the time, is the woods. And there's a trail that leads directly into the woods, like directly, like if you walk down their driveway and make a left, you can walk straight into the woods. Now they had a three car carport. And so whenever I would come over there, there was nowhere for me to park except for on the road down below. Their driveway's at an incline. I'm parked on the road, like next to the sidewalk underneath an elm tree. So on this night, I didn't cut my car off. Like I pulled up, the car's in park, the headlights are still on, facing straight ahead into the woods. And I'm not really paying attention straight ahead. I'm kind of looking over on the floor. I'm gathering my makeup bag and my purse and everything that I can get from inside the car while I'm still in the car, because I didn't, even though I never thought I would see a dog man, that fear is still in the back of my mind because on that particular end of the neighborhood, there wasn't any street lights. Wasn't any street lights on that end, and if nobody had their porch lights on, then it's pitch black and it's dark out there. But so there's still that fear or that thought in the back of my mind. You never know what's in the woods. I mean, that was just my thought. So I'm gathering everything I can gather from the front seat and the floorboard on the passenger side from inside the car, so that when I get out, all I've got to do is just go to the back and get my suitcase out. Because whenever I would go over there, I would pack for, even if it's 2 days, I'm packing for 5 days. So I'm extra like that. But on this particular night, after I gathered everything, I'm getting ready to, I'm satisfied I got everything I need. I look back up. The car's already facing straight ahead. Like, so I'm already facing directly towards that wood line, towards that trail. I look up, and when I looked up, I just stopped everything I was doing, and I looked like, oh my God, I know that that's not what I think it is. And, you know, your mind wants to tell you, nah, you've been listening to too many Dogman shows. You're not really seeing that. So to make sure my mind wasn't playing tricks on me, I turned on the high beams. I drive a Cadillac CTS, and I'm bringing this up because if you know anybody who has a Cadillac CTS, the headlights are garbage, like
Yeah.
really terrible. They're not good at all. So you have to put on high beams, especially if you're like on a dark road or anything like that, to actually get decent light. I put the high beams on, and when I put the high beams on, what I originally was looking at, I couldn't believe my eyes. My worst fears were confirmed. I'm looking at a dog man right now. It's jet black. It's about 8.5, 9 feet tall. It's about 8.5, 9 feet tall. It's standing there with its back to me. Like, so I'm gonna tell y'all in a few minutes what I think was what was going on and what happened, how this came to be right at that moment. But it had its back to me, and it was facing the woods, like it was getting ready to go further back there. Where it was standing at, that is the point where the asphalt stops. Like if you're driving down that road, the asphalt stops and the grass and then the wood starts. So it's right there, like if I'm getting ready to walk down that trail, but not at the trail yet. So it's standing there, its back is to me. When I put the high beams on it, it kept its back to me the entire time until I put the high beams on it. In my mind, what I think what was happening with that was that I think it felt like, and this is, I can't think for the Dogman, but in my mind, I feel like it probably thought, if I stand here still enough, long enough, then in a few minutes, whoever that is gonna cut that car off. They're gonna cut the lights off, and they'll never see me, because y'all know that a lot of times you'll hear people say they're blacker than black, they're darker than the darkness. So I think that it was expecting to not be seen. Nobody's looking for that. Nobody has the wherewithal is even thinking of that, and they probably wouldn't have thought twice about it anyway. But when I put the high beams on the thing, it slowly turned around to face me. And a regular animal, when it turns to look back at your vehicle, let's just say, you startle a dog, or even if you look at a deer, a coyote, or anything like that, any regular wild animal, they're going to turn and they're going to look back at the car, the headlights or something like that. They're not going to have that knowledge to know to look directly in through the windshield into the driver's seat and make direct eye contact with you. They're not, do you understand what I'm saying? They're not going to be thinking like that. And I don't even think they would probably know to do that, unless it's like a dog walking up to your car and they see you sitting in the seat. Then you have a dog to come up and they'll see you, but it's not the same. This thing made eye contact with me when it turned around. I feel like at that moment let me just say this real quick. I feel like with that moment when I put those high beams on it, it was like, okay, I'm spotlighted now. I have no choice but to turn around. I think that's why it turned. And go ahead, Tex, and I'll keep on after.
You mentioned it being darker than dark, darker than the dark, blacker than the night. And I haven't encountered that. I didn't encounter that with my Dogman encounter, because it was daylight when I had mine. But being out in the field, I've seen that with other encounters and that I've had. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like you can see their silhouette, but
yes,
it's so weird that they're darker than the actual night that you're looking at. And it's hard. If somebody don't see that, it's hard to explain it. But I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, because
that alone is a frightening experience.
Well, it's frightening for so many reasons. For one, like I wasn't expecting to see that. Number two, I'll get into the other reasons in a second. But when it turned back and made eye contact with me, the reason I feel like in that moment it didn't keep its back to me anymore was because Now it realizes I'm spotlighted. Let me turn and see what's going on. Why is those headlights still on? Because they have intelligence enough that I think they watch us enough. They know what our vehicles are. They know what phones are. They know what guns are. They know who comes and goes in the neighborhoods and stuff like that. And I think that they watch people like, and they're coming and going. Like, I think that they know that. I think that they know, based on what I've observed, I think that they know who comes out at what time and about what time everybody's in their house for the night. So it wasn't worried about being seen. Yeah. It's just that at that particular moment when I pulled into the neighborhood and pulled up to the curb, like most people, they pull up, they cut the car off and then get out and go on in the house. I didn't do that. So I caught it off guard. That was an accident. When it looked into the windshield and looked and made eye contact with me for that 8 to 10 seconds, the only thing that happened at that moment, like I had a tear rolling down my eye because at this moment I'm terrified, but I wasn't scared because it gave off this evil feeling of fear. I was scared more because of the fact that you're looking at what we think of as a werewolf right now, like in real life, like you're seeing this with your real eyes right now in real time, like it's standing right here in front of you. And it's only you and this thing outside right now, just you and this Dogman. There's nothing, everybody else is in the house. There's no street lights out here. Your parents don't even know you pulled up yet because I have a key to their house. So on any given day, like for all these years, even still now, like they moved away, I still have a key to their house, their new house. But it was never a thing or a thought that I've got to get out of the car and I've got to be afraid. I've always gotten out, and no matter what, even if it was pitch dark out there, I still had a key. So I would still go up there, and sometimes they'd have that screen door locked. But I was never worried about that. Even if it was 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I never worried about that. So I'm just thinking at that moment, I'm afraid now because of all the times I've stood out there for sometimes 10 minutes waiting for my dad to get up out of the bed to come unlock the screen door to let me in the house because they've gone to bed for the night. And now I'm thinking, so these things been back there all this time.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you really quick, Beat. Does your mom and dad ever make mention of this to you at all throughout their times living there? Anything anything they've seen out and about around their property?
Nope. They think it's ridiculous. Well, the only thing they think it's ridiculous, or I don't know if they think I'm crazy, but they just, y'all know how it is, like your family and stuff like that is like, come on, you can't really believe that. And I'm the person at this moment, like, look, you don't get to have this conversation with me because you're not qualified to have this conversation. And that's not even being a smart ass. It's just like, until you see one for yourself, then don't even talk to me about it. If I don't bring it up to you, don't bring it up to me, but don't mock and ridicule me about it either, because I know what I saw. I saw. Why would any person put themselves out there like that to embarrass themselves, to say that they saw something like that? That's just like, and I don't want to divert off the encounter. We can talk about this other thing I want to discuss in a few minutes, but just like the guy who called in when that what was it, the UFO landed in their backyard in Las Vegas, and the aliens were in the backyard, they had to make a 911 call. Nobody who, in your moment of fear or, not expecting something to happen, you're going to call whoever you need to call. You're going to ask for help. Right. And maybe later on thinking about it, then you'd be like, okay, well, I'm not going to call. There's times when people have called the police or called DNR or Fish and Game, Wildlife and stuff like that to come out to help them, but then only to have those officials to ridicule them or tell them that they saw something else other than what they saw. Or then you have the men in black or these other people that show up and then threaten them. And then all of a sudden the stories change, or all of a sudden now you're not seeing anything about it anymore. You're not hearing the follow up on it. It's so many different areas I can go into on this, because I pay attention to like a lot of stuff. I don't just interview eyewitnesses or listen to different shows and stuff like that for entertainment purposes anymore, because now it's happening so frequently that we have to question this stuff, and we need to understand what it really is that's going on.
Yeah.
Is the veil being lifted? What is this? Why are they here? Why do they frequent certain people more than others? You understand what I'm saying? So I do want to say one thing about it, that when it comes to Dogman, and I'm not an expert on this, I don't think that there's any experts on it because we don't know everything about them. But I know that
I'm glad you said you're not an expert, B. I would not have. I would not have kicked you off. Of course not.
No, you have to, because sometimes, people feel a certain type of way. Well, like, you're no expert. No, I'm not an expert, and there's not any. But there's those of us like who know what we know. I can only speak to you on my encounter. I can speak to you what I've seen. I can speak to you on what I've observed and what I've seen them do on camera and off camera. Um, Not only that, my nephew also right there at that same trail saw one night too, and I can get into his later if y'all want me to. But that,
absolutely.
oh yeah, that was he was crying that night. He was 16 getting off from McDonald's, and I'll tell y'all about that. But what I wanted to say is that the Dogman I saw that night, most people when they share a Dogman encounter, it's always most of the time it's the black German Shepherd head one. With the amber eyes, or the beer bottle with sunlight shining through its eyes. And that's not what I saw. The eye color that I saw was more of like a turquoise blue, or like that really pretty tropical island blue, but luminescent. So it was glowing from within. It wasn't because the headlights were hitting it. Because y'all know, if y'all are men, y'all know, like when it comes to those Cadillac CTS, or some of the other Cadillacs too, the headlights are garbage, and they don't flare forward like most regular headlights do. They're flaring outward, and barely, not very much. That thing was too tall. The headlights didn't hit its eyes. They were glowing from within. It didn't give off fear. That's not why I was afraid. I was afraid because it's just me and this thing out here right now. And also the fact that sometimes the automatic locks would not work on the car. So in that moment, I'm thinking, oh my God, please don't let that thing come over here, because this will be one of those times when the automatic car doors don't lock. And as everybody know, a lot of y'all who are listening right now, you know that like sometimes they do go into people's homes. They can open house doors. They can open car doors. So when it comes to that, I'm thinking nobody will ever know anything. So that was in my thoughts. The second thing I wanted to say and describe how the Dogman looked. It didn't have that German Shepherd, or like I like to call it, an Anubis head. It looked more like a Rottweiler or a pit bull. It had a broad head with a short snout and crop style ears. So that's what that one looked like. It had the upper body, and I know I'm real descriptive, but I paid attention. I looked at all this. It's standing there for about 20, at least 15 seconds.
Bettina, really quick, descriptive. Yes, absolutely. As much description, because sometimes it's vague, and I know you got this down like an art, much like when I tell my encounter. Yes, even if you can see like anything, I was talking about wrinkles, but yeah, please, you're doing great. Thank you.
So it was about 8.5, 9 feet tall. It's got the turquoise blue luminescent eyes. And in the moment, let me just finish telling y'all what the body looked like first, and I'll tell you what I heard in my head when I thought. I can't remember now if I said this out loud or if I thought it in my head, but to finish the description, it had the upper body of a bodybuilder. It had the pecs. It had the abs. It had that tapered waist, and the tapered waist was narrow. It had the hawk style legs. I don't remember paying too much attention to its feet because its eyes captivated me. I didn't want to take my eyes off of its eyes for whatever reason. But as I thought to myself, please God, don't let that thing come over here, because this will be one of those times when the automatic car doors don't work. The next thing I heard in my head was, oh, it's just you. No big deal. And the Dogman casually turned its back like it was originally and continued on its original path, which I think it was already getting ready to head down that path when I spotlighted it, and it stopped because I stopped in part.
Yes. I love when you say that, because I have heard the encounter, and it's almost like this creature knew you.
That's what I think it meant. It was almost like, oh, it's just you, no big deal. Oh, I'm not worried about you. Almost like, and I told y'all, like, my parents moved in that house in 1985. So was it there for 30 years? Like, I didn't move out of there until I was about 21. So I lived there for 21 years. So was it there all that time? Did it just come long? I have no idea how it knew me, but it did. Um, I have been out there plenty of times, like when I would go to visit them at their house, like I'd be outside smoking, and I noticed it's so many different areas I can go into with this. But I'm just gonna say that that thing knew who I was. It wasn't worried about me. Once it saw that I wasn't a threat, once it saw that it recognized me, it never went on all fours. It continued on 2 feet to walk slowly down that path, not running casually like you're taking a stroll through the park, and continued on walking. And I just sat there for a few minutes. Then I tried to like tap the doors and make sure they were locked. And then I just called inside the house because at that moment, I'm not getting out. Even though the door is just a few feet away, I'm not getting out until somebody opens that door and comes outside to escort me in the house because I'm not going to do it. And that night changed the way I did things. After that night, I didn't go outside late to smoke anymore. If I came over their house for the weekends, which I still did, then if I was gonna be there later than before dark, then I would call in advance before I even pulled up to the curb. I'm on the main road, Daddy. I'm just to pull up, come to the door, stand at the door, do not walk away, turn on the floodlight in the back and turn on the side light. Stand there, do not walk away. Because Daddy would say, well, you know how ridiculous that is. You can't be sick. I don't care what you think. Stand there. Don't walk off. And so I would make them do that every time because it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. No, you should have, and they just didn't get it. And it's like, I get that. I get that. Every time I hear this, I still get where you're coming from. It's just
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Well,
Yeah,
it is.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you said it walked away, because you're one of the few that have actually seen one walk off casually. Okay,
Uh-huh.
mine was running, but when it was walking, did you notice any kind of a strange gait, like it was going to this side and this side and this side, or was it walking like a human, pretty much in a straight line?
It seemed like it was walking in a straight line, but you got to remember too, there's no street lights, so it's dark. So I could only see it
Yeah,
to a certain point as it walked away because
right,
um there's trees and bushes and it wasn't overgrowth of grass because this is in the fall. Because during the
right.
fall, everything is kind of like down low, but it was dark back there. Um, if you remember, like back in the day before everything went digital and before we
Hmm.
got all these street lights in the neighborhood, you remember the old telephone poles back in the day were those huge wooden telephone poles with the long cords. That's how it was, even still in 2013 in that neighborhood. But I just remember it just walking off. Of course, the strides were longer, but I only saw it
Right.
so far until at that moment my mind just kind of I don't know to say I didn't go into a trance. And I went up in my head at that moment, like, did I really
Yeah.
just see that?
Well, you were in
And,
shock. I mean, that's just
yeah,
how
I
it
was.
was. I mean, and you have to try, and your mind is almost doing a reboot. You're trying to compartmentalize this, figure out where to put it, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
but what I'm noticing with the encounters that I'm talking, when I really get down to talking to people, if they happen to see one walk off, and depending on how they describe the feet, there's
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing differences, and I don't want to. I'll tell you off air, but I don't want to put it out there because one thing I think we're doing is we're putting too much information out there that's not letting us vet these encounters better. Okay.
I will say this text, it did not have the flat feet. I do know that. It had the
Mhm.
hog style legs and
Right.
a
Right.
lot of people say the back bending legs. It's not back bending legs. If you think about how we women, when we wear high heel shoes, our foot is at an angle like that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
So you're describing much like what I saw. It
Yeah.
it may not have been. It wasn't true hawks. I don't think you're describing. It's a long, narrow foot, and the heel was up in the air, and that gave it that
Yeah.
look. That yeah, and see that's what
Yeah.
I saw. It stayed up on its toes, and I think they have to do that because they have such a narrow foot, and and that's where all the weight and it which gives them the balance. To
This
be able to
thing,
walk.
it was like, it was terrifying, but it didn't give off fear. It just, I would
Right.
say, like, if you had to look at it, you hear people how they explain how it was beautiful, how it had a beautiful coat, or how, it was shiny. I will say that it was a perfect specimen. It was perfect in all its dimensions. Just looking at it's terrifying, but at the same time, like, it was a perfectly beautiful creature. I don't know how else to explain
Oh
it.
yeah. They're absolutely majestic. They really, really are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get around or through the fear factor,
Mm-hmm.
it's like okay. It's to me, it's no different than when you have an up close and personal encounter with
Right.
another apex predator or a huge animal. Once you get past that fear of the encounter itself, you can really, really appreciate the beauty and the majestic of the creature itself.
Absolutely. I agree with you. When that thing walked away that night, that was the moment when, for me, I knew and I thought in my mind that if that one is back there right now, that's not just the only one. There's other ones back there.
Right.
I've heard of them being in packs before, and I've heard of them being rogue before. But you got to think about the fact that either this thing traveled from somewhere else, or it's got a family back there, or it was born some kind of way. But as big as it was, it just makes you wonder, like, how long is this? How long did it take for it to get that big? I don't even know how to tell you. Now, to give y'all an estimate, because some people were asking me at different points when I've been on different shows. People are asking me, well, how far away was it from you when you saw it that night?
Right.
And I'm not good at gauging distance, but so I can't tell you how many yards or feet. But what I can tell you is that the best way I've always explained it was just that after that day, in the daytime, on another day, a few weeks later, maybe, or a month later, I pulled up the exact same spot, got out of the car, and walked from that spot where I was parked to exactly where it was standing. And it took about, not taking long strides, just regular steps, about 60 to 70, anywhere between 60 and 80 steps, depending on how wide or who was walking, but anywhere between 60 and 75, 80 steps to get face to face with it. If I walked over there that
Okay, so
night.
you're talking about 25 yards or so. So,
Yeah.
which is, yeah,
quarter of a football
about 60,
field.
65, 70 feet.
Yeah. Because you figure 80, 75, 80 steps, you're probably out. You probably don't have a 1 foot stride. So yeah, figures out to what about Tex figured out? 80 feet or so.
Absolutely. I see Henry E. White's comment. He said it would definitely be part of my bumper or be backing up very fast. Backing up I'm not going to say it wasn't an option, but y'all know how fast that they say that these things move. As fast as they move, if they can get up to 50, 60, 70 miles per hour, that end of the neighborhood that they live on is a cul-de-sac. But in order to bag up, I would have had to bag up straight all the way back and then be in the middle of the highway. And that would have been a long bag up from that point to pull into the neighborhood to that cul-de-sac. Number one. Number two, the other way out of the neighborhood is I would have had to bag up and whip the car around and go around the curve. So the only thing for me to have done in that moment, if it had approached, would have been to blare and lay on the horn and stay on the horn and hope that, I know that my parents would have came out and probably the neighbors across the street too. That's probably what I would have done in that moment had it approached. But since that's what got me started doing the shows. That's what got me started researching. That's what made me start paying attention and looking, because I knew after that night, I knew at that moment when it said, "Oh, it's just you, no big deal." I knew that that thing had either been watching me before when I've been out there smoking, or any other point in time, or saw me grow up, or that had been watching long enough. And if that's the case, then that what's to say that others aren't watching? And I never
Right.
seen it before. So you have people, you have hunters and stuff that say, "Well, I've been hunting in the woods all these years, all my life, and I've never seen anything." Well, you're most of the time you're out there deer hunting. People
Right.
aren't not looking in the trees; they're in the trees too.
Yep.
Most of the ones I've taken pictures of were in the trees, or hiding behind the trees, or peeking out from behind trees, or at different times. If you're just really paying attention, it doesn't take much to figure out where they are. 9 times out of 10, and maybe not everybody. I guess some people are just sensitive to certain stuff, but you know where they are. I don't know why. I can't explain it, but you know exactly where they are even before they make their presence known. Like, there's a
I think,
whole nother. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I just, on that note, I think that it's possible that once you have an encounter of any kind, that is, you know, we're told all our lives are not supposed to, happen. Ghost, any kind of paranormal, cryptid, critter, whatever you want to call it. I think that it opens a door that we close at some point in our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a little bit of that childhood innocence, we get a little bit of that back because we're now opening back up to experience these things. And I think the intent changes is what the main thing is, really. I don't think it has anything to do with psychic abilities or anything like that. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
just these creatures, much like a lot of normal animals, can sense intent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that may have a lot to do with it, but I also think that we're on higher alert. We're once you see these things, you don't go anywhere. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
to turn that Bigfoot or Dogman vision off. I mean, really, ever since I've had my encounters, I'm looking everywhere. We're driving down the road on a vacation or something. I'm looking in the woods. You
Yes.
know, I'm just waiting for something to peek out around a tree, take a step out of the trees or whatever. So I think we're much like deer hunter. They're tuned in to looking for deer. They're tuned in looking for movement,
Absolutely.
and
And
that's
these
why they don't
things,
see these things.
oh, absolutely. These things are able to remain completely still. I've watched them do this several times. I mean, still to the point where
Mhm.
if you're not taking multiple pictures of them, rapid fire pictures back to back, from what I've observed, and I'm not saying this is everybody's experience, but if you're not taking rapid fire pictures or recording video, and I'm not saying every video or picture is going to come up clear, because I think that they have the ability to manipulate that, because it happens all the time. You'll see a lot of these pictures in groups or on the internet or whatever, and what we call like blob squat pictures and stuff like that. Sometimes it's a
Right.
dirty camera, sometimes it's a shaky hand, but sometimes it's them. When none of those factors come into play, when your camera's not dirty, when you're not shaky, when you've got a regular camera and not a phone. So when it
Right.
comes to that, I think that they have the ability to disrupt frequencies. But they're able to remain completely still, and they're also able to completely blend in with their surroundings, the shrubbery and the greenery, grass and trees, so well that if you don't know what you're looking for, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna see them anyway.
You
Right.
know,
See that's the side of the fence that I'm on. Not so much that
Mm-hmm.
they can manipulate the the camera stuff, but more the physical side. I am. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think part of that is because I don't want to think that these things have these paranormal abilities too, along with being nasty freaking critters to start with. you
you
know,
know, again,
Mm-hmm.
but
I I know
It's not out
exactly.
of the realm of possibility.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. And we've got 3 minutes. We have to take a 5-minute break. There's so much cool stuff in this show and to unwrap. And I've talked to lots, but AB, you've talked to lots of people with Dogman encounters. Tex has, I have. It's a lot of people bring up that interdimensional aspect. But you know what? Let me ask you this. So how many, and you don't have enough time. We got 2 minutes now. We can start in the second half. My question I pose is this. And you mentioned about looking like a Rottweiler, right? Or a pit bull head. I wonder how many of these things are being misidentified. You don't know what you're even looking at. And we've had tracks that have 3 toes, 4 toes, 5 toes, 3 pads, 4 pads, 1 pad. It gets so monotonous at times. We're talking to everybody that this data, we're just confounded with it all. And it's like, what are we really dealing with? Maybe it could be something totally different that's not even a Dogman. And that's kind of, I like to get your guys' thoughts on that because Texas is doing a great series. Everybody at Texas Front Porch can continue to watch on Mondays at 9. He started last week with Donnie and he had DA on yesterday. And they're comparing these different dogmen and actually werewolves. And B, I'd like to get your take on what I just mentioned, and I'll refresh you when we come right back. But we do have to run away for our 5-minute break. And before that, thank you to Tex, Sugar Britches, Falafel, Bay, Be Kind, and Maggie for your fabulous super chats. We got to cut it for 5 minutes, the 5-minute break for our radio sponsors. As soon as I find the button, as Tex will say, we'll be back in 5. Go refresh your beverage, get a treat, whatever you need to do, let out the dog. BMR Tex and Bettina Moss, the lovely Bettina Moss. I got 6 more seconds to get this out. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Thank you, one and all, for joining Beyond BMR. I am, of course, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, joined along with my buddy Tex from Texas Front Porch, and of course, Bettina Moss from Crypto Paranormal Encounters with B Moss. Go subscribe to her fantastic channel. The links have been posted in chat, and I also have it in the description of this show. Before we get on, don't forget, Mondays is Texas Front Porch on Texas Front Porch YouTube channel, 9 in the East. We no longer stream to each other's channels, yada, yada. I'll be giving this report out for the next month or so until everybody's on board, but most of you already are. Tuesdays, Van Buren Variety on his channel, 8 o'clock in the East. That's Van Buren Variety, 8 in the East. Beyond BMR, Bigfoot Michigan Rob channel. Again, subscribe, 9 o'clock in the East. Jason McLean does his thing, Mysterious Library on Untold Radio AM. Check out Jason, and also subscribe to Jason McLean on YouTube. He's dropping videos. He's no longer live on Wednesdays, but he's doing his thing with 2 or 3 video drops. So make sure you check out Jason. And also, everybody, again, make sure the alert bells are on. I've seen in chat a lot of people haven't gotten the information. Turn on the alert bell, put it to all, hit it to all, and you'll get the fabulous shows. Wednesday, however, the time slot has been filled. On Texas Front Porch, we present the Diva Dimension. That'll be this next Wednesday coming up. The Diva Dimension with Danielle Diva. That will be at 10 o'clock in the East. So make sure you check that out. Thursdays, right back here, brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East, along with Krista. Again, got to subscribe to BMR to get that show. And then, of course, subscribe to the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast on Thursdays, 9 in the East. Fridays, the Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo. Once again, 9 in the East. Again, subscribe to these channels to get the fabulous content. Saturday, Texas Front Porch, 3 in the East. Tex and Danielle Diva do something called Infamous Minds. It is true crime. Check them out. Once again, the super chat is open, and thank you to Tex, Sugar Britches, Fel Bay, Be Kind, and Maggie for your awesome super chats and support. I do appreciate it. We do appreciate each and every single one of you across the board. Like, share, and subscribe is all we ask. Thank you so much for the love and support. And I'm going to bring up Tex and B. So, hello, you guys. So yeah, AB, fantastic show. I kind of ended that with kind of a question about what are we looking at, misidentification, all these tracks, all these different looks with the heads and the features, and Tex on Texas Front Porch is doing a cool series. Everybody go check that out. But before we start with that, B, I gotta say, 2 years ago, I missed you in Alabama, and I was calling you up. B, I'm in Alabama. You're like, oh, Rob, I can't make it. I'll see you next year. Then last year, you were in Alabama, and I was at home. So hopefully the third time will be a charm, my friend.
Yeah, are you going to be in
I
Fort Worth?
can't. No, I can't go because of a prior thing. I don't want to get into it. I can't go to that because I've been doing the same gig for 25 years on that weekend. So I can't make that. So I'm kind of really disappointed because that's going to be a great show, a great conference. And B, if you want to go ahead and tell everybody where that's going to be in the fall.
That is going to be in Fort Worth, Texas, and that is Labor Day weekend, September 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I think, what is it? White Settlement is where they're gonna, where it's the convention center. That's where it's going to be held. It's the Paranormal Roundtable second annual Dogman Cryptid Conference, and it's going to be a whole lineup of guest speakers there. It's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be like 20 speakers there this year. So it's going to be some ones that were there last year and some new ones as well. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. We had a lot of fun last year at the conference, met a lot of great people. Looking forward to going back.
Yeah, every time I hear that, I cringe because I really want to go. I really want to go, but this thing I've been doing is okay. It's fantasy football, 25 straight years. The thing about it is, we've been doing it for so long, and two of the guys that used to play with have passed away in the last 25 years. So we do pay homage to them and respect to them. So it's kind of like it's not just a sports thing. It's kind of all the guys get together and it's a great time, and we pay remembrance to our fallen friends who we've had over the years. So yeah, I'm not going to make that one, but I'll be in circulation soon. That's all I can say about that. Again, thanks for everybody for joining us today. And B, while we get started, I was talking about Tex and his shows he's got going on regarding werewolves and Dogman. Let me ask you, you talk to a lot of people on crypto paranormal encounters with B Moss. You come across a lot of different looks to the Dogman, like perhaps, like in your case itself is totally out there as far as the head. How many cases have you come across where you don't know if it's Dogman for sure, or if it's misidentification, I should say? Because I know you get a lot because your show's great, and I watch it almost every time I can.
How many different? You asked me how many different ones I come across.
Different, do you think that maybe they're looking at Dogman and maybe it's a Bigfoot or some other cryptid? I guess what I'm trying to get at. Because again, Tex is bringing out some stuff on his show, which makes you think that there are all these things Dogman, like everyone says, all these things Bigfoot. So if you've come across anything that it's hard for you to determine or discern which it is, or because there's that there's that one chart that Valenti put out, right? Or whoever put it out about the different stages. I mean, I think that's kind of an old chart myself. What's your thoughts?
I've seen different types of Dogman on that property. I have seen, and I'll go into that too, what you were asking. I've seen ones that look more like a gray wolf or a husky type, with the light gray snout or whatever, but then the rest of the body is like a dark gray. I've seen that. I've seen the ones that look like a black German Shepherd or Nubis. I think I've seen that particular one maybe twice, standing in the exact same area. The Rottweiler pit bull type, I'm going to say the first encounter plus 2 other times on that one. So I'm going to assume that one is frequent on that property because it's very bold. And the second time I saw that particular one, it was in broad daylight, probably around noon or 1 o'clock, just watching on that path, watching me sitting in the car smoking on that day. But to answer your question, yes, I was back there in the woods. I think it was 2021 with a couple of other people. We were going back there to take pictures and see if we seen any footprints or anything that, looked out of place. And at the time, like, I didn't have a sighting at that moment. I took several pictures while I was back there, like I always do, because a lot of the times people don't realize you can take pictures sometimes and you will see them watching from behind the trees or different areas that you didn't know or wasn't even aware of at the time that they were there. But during that occasion, I did capture something on camera that I'm not sure what it was. I did capture something on camera. I'm not sure what it was. I'd have to go back into that old phone and look for those pictures. But that one, I really can't tell you. It kind of halfway looked like it might have had a snout, but at the same time, it kind of looked like it didn't. I'd say I don't know what to make of that thing.
I guess my question really wasn't about yours. I know where you're coming from. I'm just asking because you've been doing this for some time, and it just amazes me at the different descriptions that people give about the Dogman. Like every time I hear about yours, when I think of the Dogman, I have heard of two descriptions really that I hear most commonly. It's the German Shepherd with the hocked legs. He's skinny and he just looks like a dog is 6.5 foot tall. Then you hear the one about the one that looks like the werewolf, who has a chiseled upper body. It runs like a man, right? And those are two distinctively different Dogman, right? And they're classified as, I guess you could call, some people might call the German Shepherd the bipedal canine, and where people would call the werewolf one the Dogman. So I guess what I'm just trying to do is I get it myself, or maybe for people listening, there's got to be some clarification with a lot of these things.
I think that I don't agree with that chart. I'm not going to say I don't agree with the chart. I don't think that there's just 7 different types like they have it on that chart. I don't agree with that. I think that just the same way, and I'm not saying that they are dogs, because I don't think that, to say whether they are like bred with dogs and humans or however they came to be, I think that there's several different breeds or different types. I don't just think there's just 7. I don't think that there's too many different variations. There's too many different colors. Some people have seen ones with black eyes, blue eyes, amber eyes, different ones that have the tufts on the ears. Some don't have the tufts on the ears. Some of them look like Anubis. You've got different ones. I've heard ones where it looked like an emaciated coyote, or some of them that have looked like a fox or a red wolf. It's just so many different types. There's different foot types. You were bringing that up right before you went to the break a few minutes ago. The ones that have like 3 toes, and it's too hard to say, because at the end of the day, I would think that regardless of whatever breed, that's the strange thing about it. Whatever breed, whatever different color variations, eye colors and stuff, you would think that the foot structure would still be the same. So y'all know, like, my thoughts on it. I think that they're Nephilim. That's just my thoughts on it. I feel like that there's different intermingling with different types of animals. I have no idea. I don't agree with some of the theories, but I'm not going to cancel it out. But some people have a theory that they're from other planets. I just think that they're interdimensional. I've seen them cloak. I've seen them disappear, and what I call cloaking. They can cloak in more than one way. But one of the most popular ones that people talk about, even with Bigfoot, is what they call the predator effect. That, if y'all have seen the movie Predator, you know what that looks like. You can still see their outline. I've seen times when I've been able to see the head, shoulders, and upper body. And then, there might be an area where the trees or leaves go across the waist. And then at the bottom, it's open where you should be able to see the legs and feet. There's nothing there. And it's like, well, is this thing partially manifested? It's so many different ways I've seen them manifest as a fog. So it's hard to narrow it down on them, because we're trying to look at it as, you have to decide, well, are they only flesh and blood? Are they supernatural? I think that there's different types. I think that there's some are supernatural or paranormal in nature. And I think that some are flesh and blood and supernatural at the same time. Because we know that they procreate and have kids, they eat and all this other stuff, and sometimes they can be killed. but there's other times when they're not able to be killed. So it's like, what do you do with that?
You know, it is, what do you do with that? Because I'll tell you something really briefly here, and when it comes down to Bigfoot, I think they're a flesh and blood, and I think they have other abilities, paranormal, supernatural. I that's my beliefs, and people know my beliefs on that. And I've had so many encounters, stories that I've gotten in, and things that I've read, and you always hear that typical story. And this the data supports all of this. A couple, they're driving through the woods, they're in a vehicle, or a single man, single woman, or a couple. Then all of a sudden, out of the back, they see something chasing them down, and they're looking what it is, and it appears to be an oversized wolf. Then all of a sudden, it gets on the side of the road. It's still on all fours, and it's getting closer. Then it gets up. Now it's running on two legs, and then it gets so close to the car. Then it drops kind of down to four legs, and it's still big enough to take that head, and it's always usually a wolf-like head, and it looks inside the car window. Now it always has this ability to give you that sinister-looking smile or grin, which to me, now I do know that dogs can give a little smile, but they give this smile that it's like, I know I can get you, and they just look, and the Dogman typically doesn't do anything bad. And then all of a sudden, it gets up to two legs. It's running alongside the car. And then all of a sudden, I've heard the story so many times, some it'll cut into the woods, and others where it just melts away. So I've heard both sides of the coin where that I'm thinking, wow, 2 months ago, I'm thinking it's flesh and blood. Now I hear this story and the same story on and on again about the materialization or dematerialization. So it just makes me wonder. And that's why for me, and again, you said there are no experts, and I believe that. In fact, we haven't even scratched the surface, in my belief. Then, of course, you talk about a whole different can of worms with the Nephilim, right? So, I mean, you could talk about this subject for 14 hours and still not have anything solved.
Yeah, because there's several different areas that you can go into with this. Like, and the reason I say that, for me, the reason I say Nephilim, and I could be completely wrong, and I highly respect the people that believe that they're solely flesh and blood. But for me, the reason I feel like they're Nephilim or some type of paranormal creation is because the things that they're able to do that normal and regular animals aren't able to do. The fact that they're able to cloak and be, I guess, like the predator, like that. I've seen that. The fact that they're able to manifest in front of your eyes and appear and disappear. The fact that they can be right there in front of you and you not even see them. And I understand that there's natural animals like squid and other chameleons and stuff like that are able to cloak and blend in with their surroundings. But these things, I've heard so many different stories that just don't make sense. The fact that they can open car doors, come into houses, the fact that some people end up getting PTSD behind this, or they have the nightmares, or some people even have these things to like manifest in their homes, like in their bedrooms and stuff like that. That's not natural. The mind speak, the fact that they're able to implant ideas in people's heads or thoughts, the fact that they're able to do that smile, because I think you know the difference between when something is grinning at you versus a dog like baring its teeth at you. That's different. It looks different. It's not the same. Just like when I told you the first night, that one and only time that I can say that if mind speak happened, it happened during that first encounter when I spoke to that thing and it said, "Oh, it's just you, no big deal." So I just think that there's too many different things. Now there's people who have like questioned and said, well, if they're Nephilim, or they're you believe that they're half fallen angel, how is that? Because the angels, and the angels didn't eat. I said, well, if you want to say the angels didn't eat, if you're saying that and you're trying to use the Bible to back that, then you're already wrong, because in, what was this? I can't remember what book this is, but it was in Sodom and Gomorrah when Lot and his wife, they had these angels come to their house. And when the angels came to their house, they came in and they actually ate a meal with them. These are supernatural beings. but they're also able to like kill like hundreds of thousands of people that same night supernaturally, and also able to blind the men so that they could get the family out of the house that night. They were able to do all these things that were supernatural, but at the same time, they're able to eat like human food. So supernatural, and at the same time, flesh and blood too, when they want to be, I guess. They can manifest that body, and I don't know how to explain that. Just like you hear people say that they've shot at Dogman several times, and when they shot at the Dogman, they hit it and they know that they hit it point blank, or they saw the bullet ricochet off of it, or they even saw blood fly, but the thing didn't die. It kept coming as if it was like a bee sting. Then you hear times when there's people that say, I shot and killed a Dogman. Point in case, like the guy who I had, I can't remember if it was episode, it was the guy who, I think that episode of my show, I called it Truck Driver Kills a Dogman. He told his encounter on there, and the Dogman was running alongside his big rig, and it actually, he was on a backcountry road. It's a 2-lane road, and on that road, I think he was only able to go like 40 miles an hour, and this Dogman like leaned down and stuck its head through his passenger side window and leaned in towards him and kept pace with him as he's running. But he actually ended up shooting it, and he said that he killed it, and it rolls down into the ditch. Now he had to go further down the road in his 18-wheeler to be able to get to a point where he could turn around and go back. He said when he got back to that point where he saw it drop, where it should have still been in the ditch, when he got back to that exact point, there was a couple, like a man and a woman, standing out there looking into the woods. And he didn't want to say anything to them about the fact that he saw a Dogman, because he couldn't believe what he had saw himself. But he asked that couple if they were okay, like what's going on, because they were just standing out the side of their car. And I can't remember if he said they had binoculars or they had their phones or cameras out, but or weapons. I can't remember the details on that now, but he said that they told him that they just saw a bear drag another bear into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
But he knew it was a Dogman. So basically they come and get their own. So like that even brings back the whole thing of, people asking, well, if they're out there, then why don't you ever find a Bigfoot or Dogman body? Well, what if they bury their own? What if they eat their own? They're coming to get them. And the fact that in a lot of these cases, like when a Dogman or Bigfoot encounter happens, a lot of the times you'll hear people say that I caught it off guard, or when it saw me and when it saw the fact that I spotted it, it was pissed off, or it was angry that I saw it. I don't know if there's rules or guidelines or whatever, however it goes, but they don't want you to see them. A lot of the times people have said that they heard a thought in their mind, you better not take that picture, or you better not shoot, or it's going to be the last thing you do. So it's just so many different things to it. So that's why I feel like that. Also, I guess too, look with Melba Ketchum's study, what she came up in that was with the Dogman DNA, it was part canine, part human, and part unknown. What is that unknown?
Yeah.
And that's just a hypothetical question.
That's the $1 million question, right?
Mm-hmm. And then you got to think too about all these unknown canine killings. Since when? So when it comes to, and I don't know enough about this to really make a determination on it, because I don't know nothing about like DNA and stuff like that. But the veterinarian, if you bring in an animal, like you bring in a dog or a coyote, I think there's differences in that DNA. They should be able to say, well, this is a fox DNA, this is a dog DNA, they can tell you down to what breed based on the DNA, like on a DNA test. But when they say unknown canine, it makes you wonder, like, are they really telling you at that point? Why is it unknown? Is this another species or breed of dog that has not been recognized by science yet? So that's the strange part about that for me. It's too many unanswered questions.
When they say unknown, what they're supposed to be meaning, I'm not saying this is what they're telling the truth, but what they're supposed to be meaning by that is it's not in their database of DNA.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think that when it comes up unknown for the, I want to say general public, but the regular law enforcement and that type, and when they get those results back and it's unknown,
Mm-hmm.
I think that DNA is flagged and goes somewhere it needs to go or they want it to go, but it
Mm-hmm.
comes back to them as unknown. But I think it's definitely in the DNA bank, but it's not in theirs.
I think so too. And people often say like, well, why not? Well, if we just bring in a Bigfoot body, or you bring in a Dogman body, then that's going to prove it. You're not. First of all, you're not going to bring in a body if you shoot and kill one of the creatures. As soon as you make a call to DNR or Fish and
Yeah.
Game or whoever, as soon as you make that call, they're going to come swoop down on you so fast. You're not going to have a chance to bring that body in because 9 times out of 10, and a lot of people that I've interviewed and a lot of shows that I've heard, they're not able to bring the body in because they get threatened. They get threatened and told you saw a bear. It was a pack of wild dogs. Their pensions and like their whole credibility, their lives get ruined behind it. Some people have been attacked because of this.
Yeah,
You
you're going to have
have
to drop it on the. You're going to have to drop it on the
Mhm.
courthouse steps. I mean, figuratively saying, I mean,
I think until there's a mass sighting and a lot of people all at one time actually see this at the same time and it's caught live on video, I don't
yeah,
think that they're ever going to admit it. It took the longest time for them to finally admit that aliens or UFOs are real.
right.
Yeah,
And I think
that's
that's why we're headed towards soft disclosure, just like they did with the UFOs, because they want to get it to the point to where the public is going to go, yeah, we knew that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we're going to get. I don't see us getting there with Dogman. I definitely see us getting there with Bigfoot.
Well,
And
I think so too.
I've been saying for years it's going to happen in my lifetime, but Santa Claus lives to 124 years, so um,
yeah,
there is that.
yeah, yeah, right.
Yes. I agree with you on that because as far as like the disclosure, as far as Bigfoot coming sooner than Dogman would, because just for instance, they're already pretty much letting you know that anyway. Washington State and what is it? Washington State and New York State have it in their laws that it's illegal to kill a Bigfoot, but most people don't know that that's in there. Why would you put that in your laws if that's something that supposedly doesn't exist at all? Why put that in your
Well,
laws?
well, the U.S. and the U.K. have laws in place now. They're not talked about, but from what I understand, they have laws in place now against harming any kind of chimera. Why
Now,
would you?
didn't they have like a meeting behind, like, I don't know what you call it, like Senate or like one of those meetings that they have behind the scenes and they were discussing that during one of those? I don't know if that was a hoax. I saw that. But is that true? And then you have the Oklahoma,
The
was it the
bounty?
governor of Oklahoma?
Well, it was a
And
state representative. Yeah,
and what was he trying to do with that text?
he was trying to put on a bounty and have the Fish and Game back the bounty. That didn't go through, but a private individual has, from what I understand, has backed the bounty, and I think it's $3 million for a live Bigfoot, and he wanted to instate a trapping season that coincided with the Hanobi Bigfoot Festival and make
Okay.
the trapping season 30 days. But I don't know how far that went. I don't think it went anywhere, but I do know there's a bounty in Oklahoma for a live Bigfoot. So,
We've again with this subject, we've talked about flesh and blood, we've talked about paranormal, supernatural, touched a little on the Nephilim, Anubis, and I got something, and we kind of hinted on the government, and I got something to share to both you guys and the people listening. And
Hmm.
again, this will be government. I want your thoughts on this really quick because Tex is talking about soft disclosure, which, yeah, I agree with Tex on all these things. Again, on my channel, I do encounter stories from subscribers or emails I get in, and this is very brief. I'm not going to go through it. You have to go check it out. But this was 2 years ago in Indiana State Park. Husband, wife, and their son, they go to the state park, and it's a state park where they could bring their horses up to. And the place on the park had an area where you could actually put your horses. You could bring your trailer for your horse and you could ride your horse on the trails. The trails are specifically set up for you to ride your own horse. You were charged a fee, yada yada, to take care of this. So the first day they went out, I'm gonna make this story short. Now the boy, the man, the dad and the son were both into Bigfoot and Dogman and stuff like that. I'm gonna say that precursor. And they noticed a bunch of weird smells, and they saw a lot of scat and unusual looking scat, and they knew it wasn't horse scat. It was just different. Because again, they know what horse scat is. They have horses, and they were, they were researched Bigfoot and Dogman. Whether they came up with anything, I don't know. So, as a couple days into their trip, the horses were in the trailer, literally maybe about 20, 30 yards away. They happened to be out, and they brought their RV up there. And they were out there watching, and they seen this big shadowy figure. It kind of ran into the trailer, and then the horse started bucking, making a horse sound, and all of a sudden you see this object in the shadow run out and runs and disappears into the wood line. So the son and the father, they run to their horse. Well, now they get to the horse, and there are 3 claw marks that were laid into and gouged out of the horse's rear quarters, and it was bleeding. And so they got on, they called the head, they called somebody. It was late at night. They got a hold of somebody, a director at the park. Nobody came. An hour later, the sheriff showed up and the director of this actual national force in Indiana. And they showed him the horse, and when on, some animal did this. And the son yells, "Dogman." He just says "Dogman." And then the officials went on to tell the father, "Hey, don't be throwing out things like Dogman and that. And I tell you what, we're going to take care of your whole trip." So they paid for everything. They said they'll pay for the vet bills for the horse. They offered to pay them for their entire night stay for however long they were there. And they gave them a bonus just to not yell out anything Dogman or werewolf or anything of that nature. So the dad kind of reluctantly agrees. They go home. And you guys, listen to this. This is what makes this really strange. They're not even a week home, not even a home for a week. They get a knock on their door, and it's an official from the state park, a DNR person, and another guy that's claimed to be with the Department of the Interior. And they said, "Look," and they weren't nice about this. They told this family, "Do not utter this. Do not utter anything about Dogman, because you will get in severe trouble." They basically threaten these people. And I read this. I've done this story. It's on my channel. And I did this, and in communicating with this guy via email, he says, yeah, he was literally threatened to mention this. And that's where we are today with this. And this was back in 2021 is when this all happened.
Yep. And that happens a whole lot. And I'm not sure why that happens, but the secrecy, for whatever reason, they don't want to bring these out the same way that they don't want to bring out the truth. Like, look how long it came with the alien thing. And if you really look at it, there's a lot of stuff people don't realize too that's also intertwined is, and I'm bringing this up for a reason, but a lot of other things that go together with this are the fact that when you look at the whole situation, just like what happened in Las Vegas, that guy came out and told about the aliens that landed in his backyard. And then you also hear later on that there were people in black SUVs that showed up on the property. You hear people a lot of times talk about, in correlation with Bigfoot and Dogman activity, that sometimes lights in the sky and UFOs are also seen at the same time as the Bigfoot or Dogman sighting, orbs. And so when you look at that, it's almost, to me, tying all these things together, and this is just a far stretch, but like nothing is impossible at this point because of all the things that we're already seeing that should be ridiculous already. But the fact that these things have been seen together, that's crazy. There's something to that. Are they interdimensional? And nobody really talks about this, and I really don't know, but I'm looking at it also and thinking, Admiral Byrd brought up, what was it? Inner Earth. Is that a thing? Is that real? I mean, I don't know y'all's thoughts on it, but you just have to look at different aspects. There's so much that we don't know.
There really
Yeah.
is. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tex.
No, I was just going to say that's you. You pretty much put it all in a nutshell right there. There's so much that we don't know,
Yeah.
and until we're privy to that information, it's all going to be. I hate to say speculation. A bunch of it is on our part because we have to theorize and take guesses, but there's so much that we experience that we know, but we don't have all the information to be able to explain it. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's just too much unknown, and so I don't think until we get to a point to where we know more about them, where they came from, what they are. And I do feel like that when you look at a bunch of different areas of this, the deep underground military bases, Phil Schneider came out, I can't remember if this is early 2000s or back in the 90s or probably before that, because that was some old footage back when I first saw it. But he was talking about the different alien species that were underground in those deep underground military bases. So there's several different things. I do think that some of these things, chimeras, are being created and bioengineered in labs as well. I think that there's a lot of different intermixtures, and I do think that when people say, "Well, if we just brought in a body, then that's going to prove it," well, no, that's not going to prove it because they already know and they already have bodies and they already have live ones. Also, that's just my thoughts on it. I think they've got both. How many times have y'all heard people say that they saw? You don't hear this that often, but every now and then you hear one where say it looked like they had a tracking device, or when certain frequencies were I don't know, blown or whatever they did to turn on certain frequencies, that it sent these dogmen like off. It was able to control them in some type of way. I've heard a few encounters like that. One of them I heard, I think, was on the Lance Hightower show, Monster 911. A few other shows too. So there's different things that is going on with that. They have some type of control. They know. And then if you believe anything about, do y'all feel like, because you hear the super soldier program, are they putting them out there for some reason too? They tell us that we don't have black panthers here. They just tell us like in Alabama, we don't have wolves. But then you go down to like the sheriff's department or like the state trooper barracks, and there's actually pictures in there where people going hunting and they are here. They lie about a lot of different stuff that's not supposed to exist. We're not supposed to have alligators here in Alabama, but we do.
That is true. Black Panthers are the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the Michigan Panther here. It's the Black Panther. Every year, someone has it on camera or on film, literally, and they show it on the news, and yet we don't have them here, according to the DNR or whoever. And there's so much we could talk about, but we go an hour and a half. We've gone a little over, but there are a few questions that a couple of the people in chat wanted to ask you. B, I'm gonna pull them up right quick because Tex usually starts a few of them. And Bettina, here's one from Mike A. Well, Bettina, did you notice the color of the eye shine? This again, beginning of the show. This was B. It was you notice the color of the eye shine. It didn't have a tail.
The eye shine. It was an internal. It was self luminescent. It was self luminating eye shine. It wasn't because the headlights were hitting it. Its eyes shone from within, and it was blue, like a really pretty turquoise blue or ocean blue. Didn't have a tail. Even though its back was to me for the first couple of seconds before it turned around, I didn't pay attention to that because I don't know why. Maybe because it was so tall. I was more looking at its structure, looking at its entirety as a whole. I didn't really pay attention as far as the tail was concerned.
Okay. Well, my buddy Sibylla Irwin asked the same question. By the way, Sibylla Irwin, she's going to be doing my renditions when I get a hold of her. My two of my Bigfoot, the Down syndrome looking one and the demon. I supposed to call her last week, but I did not, Sibylla. If you're still there, I'm sorry. I'll be getting with you. It's just been crazy. But yeah, Sibylla Irwin, she's going to be on the show when we finish those up to talk about that. Thanks, Sibylla. And B answered that. And Vixen Doe asks, did you notice how it stepped? B, did it step toes first or heel first?
It's hard to say. Like I said, it was dark back there. All I can tell you is that the structure of its feet were more kind of like Tex mentioned earlier, like the heel is off the ground. So if you just picture a woman how her foot is in high heels shoes, its foot is shaped like that. So I guess I would say have to say toes first because its toes are already on the ground. The heels are not touching the ground.
Yeah, and most of these questions are all the same. And Duke had mentioned something we were talking about. There are several things being called Dogman currently. And when he says by things, I'm guessing that maybe it's not all Dogman, right? That's what I gather from his comment. But the rest of these
Yeah.
comments and questions are all pretty much you've answered. They're the same. So I'm not going to go with that. Thank you for everybody's comments and questions.
Sabilla just said that she was going to be calling me to start my eyewitness sketch. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sabilla, hit me up on Messenger. I think we're friends on Facebook. Yeah, you can definitely reach out to me.
I know Sabella's supposed to call you last week. I know. I failed. I failed you. Don't worry. I'll be getting with you. You know I will.
That's
She's
okay,
such a,
Sibylla. I'll get in touch with you, and
she's
we'll do
such a
my
treat.
Dogman.
Oh, God. Yeah. Put me on the back burner. Well, you know, it's my fault, right? I love
You had your
Sibylla.
chance. You had your chance.
Well, you know, Sibylla knows I have a crush on her, so I might be at the top of the list. I don't know.
All right.
But yeah, so with that being said, so B, great show, fantastic show. Where can everybody find you?
I'm on Instagram. I think I'm under there like B_Moss79. Cryptonormal Encounters with B Moss Facebook group, and my YouTube channel also Cryptonormal Encounters with B Moss on
Now,
YouTube.
now, of course, no one's going to remember that. However, the links are in the chat, and in my description of this show, I have everything there. What I don't have, I will definitely put in for you because I do appreciate you coming on, and I will take care of that for you as well. I thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you again. And I also had Rob on the show. Also, Rob, we can get together again and do some more stuff. But thank you for
Yeah.
having me on the show.
Yeah, you
I
know, I
really
got a
enjoyed
lot
it.
more stuff to share with you. Actually, hook me, get with me, and we'll get in touch. And of course,
Absolutely.
Tex has got his. I don't know how long he's doing this. This dog man werewolf thing. Maybe you want to talk with Tex after the show briefly. He might want. Maybe we'll get you on as well. Because B,
Yeah.
you know a lot. You do know a lot. We respect and appreciate you.
Well, I
Me and Tex
appreciate
do,
y'all.
for sure.
Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all so much. I enjoy learning about it. And like I say, I wouldn't mind doing some field research. I'm just not going to camp out there. I'm not doing that.
That's
Yeah,
when all
the
the
tent
cool
is for
stuff
y'all.
happens is at night.
The cool stuff does happen at night in the forest, and there's some things I'm looking at doing. I'm not going to say that. I'm not to disclose that right now. And Tex, I'm surprised you didn't notice my wilderness background. I got a new background here.
Oh, you sure do.
Yeah, I see that.
Wow.
It's the woods, and there's like a portal in the
A
back.
portal.
Well, I got to
maybe
tell
not.
you, Rob, if I'm completely honest with you, I got better things to look at, right down here. So,
Well, you got me.
like,
Well, you
I'm
got
sorry
me
I
on
didn't
that
notice-
one.
Oh
I'm
my God.
sorry I
Be
didn't
as
notice
be
your
it be as
background, but
slightly more attractive than I am. I get it. I look at her too.
it's a
I didn't even
twig,
notice.
yeah.
I didn't even notice that you didn't shave or cut your beard today. I know you trimmed your beard. I didn't even notice. For God's sake.
Oh
I
my
did
God.
not trim my beard. It's just being unruly.
Well, I think we've had
grief,
enough
I
of
need to
that
go get
before
it
we
trimmed,
get.
that's for sure.
Well, we might get in trouble if we continue on with this. B, just hang out back if you would for a few minutes, if you don't mind. Thank you
Okay.
to everybody in chat. I love each and every single one for joining us today. Thank you to Catherine Gay, Sugar Britches, Tex, Falfalal Bay, Be Kind, and Maggie for your great super chats. I appreciate that. Tex appreciates it. We appreciate everybody coming on, listening in chat, listening on the radio, listening later. We're all in the archives. We love you. Subscribe to all of our channels. We no longer stream. You know our channels. Please hit that subscribe. Turn on the alert bell. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, I'm for Tex, for B, I am BMR, and we are out.